I stood in the middle of Dylan's backyard, holding a plastic cup of lemonade, surrounded by neighbors I barely knew. The June sun was hot, the grill was smoking, and everyone was laughing at something my son had just said. "Honestly, we only let Dad stay here because he can't manage on his own anymore," Dylan said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "He's basically a burden at this point." People laughed nervously. Some glanced at me with pity. Others looked away quickly, uncomfortable. My chest tightened. The cup trembled in my hand. I couldn't breathe properly. Couldn't move. Just stood there while my son, my only child, told a crowd of strangers I was a burden. Dylan caught my eye and kept talking. "I mean, we're doing our best, but it's tough, you know?" Babysitting a grown man. More laughter. Lighter this time. Like they were relieved he'd broken the tension. I set down my cup carefully on the nearest table. Walked toward the house without a word. Nobody stopped me. Nobody followed. Inside, I leaned against the kitchen counter, hand shaking. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. My name is Alan Pierce. I'm 62 years old. And let me tell you how it came to this. I stood in the kitchen trying to steady my breathing when I heard footsteps behind me. Brielle, Dylan's wife, came in looking concerned. "Alan, are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said, reaching for my jacket hanging by the door. "Just needed a minute. I'm sorry about what Dylan said out there." He was joking. You know how he gets at parties. I nodded but didn't respond. Reached for the file drawer where I kept my personal papers. It had been left slightly open, and a folder was sticking out. Brielle noticed it too. Before I could close the drawer, she pulled the folder out. Curiosity, maybe. Or maybe something had been bothering her for a while. She opened it. I watched her eyes scan the first page. Property deed. Legal document. Official stamps and signatures. Her face changed as she read. Owners, Dylan Pierce and Alan Pierce. She looked up at me slowly, confusion giving way to something else. Understanding. Shock. "Why didn't he tell me this?" she whispered. I took the folder gently from her hands. I trusted him to handle it his way. "He said you were staying with us temporarily. That this was our house. That we were helping you out." "I know what he said." She stared at the closed drawer. "How much did you contribute?" "The full down payment. $60,000. Her face went pale. "Let me take you back to where this started. 2 years ago, my wife Margaret died. Lung cancer. Fast and cruel. We've been married 38 years. The house felt too big after she was gone. Too quiet. Too full of memories that hurt to look at. Dylan called me every day those first weeks. Checking in, making sure I was eating, offering to come over. I appreciated it. Thought maybe grief had brought us closer. Then one evening, he showed up with Brielle. They'd only been married 6 months. "Dad, we've been talking," Dylan said, sitting at my kitchen table, the same table where Margaret and I had eaten breakfast every morning. "You shouldn't be alone in this big house. Why don't you sell it and move in with us?" "I don't know, son. This is home. It's too much house for one person. Too many memories. Besides, we'd love to have you." "Right, Brielle." Brielle nodded, smiling warmly. "We'd love it. Families should be together." Dylan leaned forward. "Plus, we're looking at buying a bigger place. Your equity from this house could help with the down payment. Then you'd be an owner, too. Part of the family home." I hesitated. The house was paid off, worth about $300,000. But the loneliness was crushing me. "You'd really want me there?" "Of course, Dad. You raised me. Let me take care of you now." I signed the paperwork 2 months later, trusting Dylan completely. The first few months were okay. Dylan and Brielle moved into the new house first, got settled, then I arrived with my belongings. My room was the smallest bedroom upstairs. They decorated it before I moved in. Bland beige walls, basic furniture. Nothing personal. "We thought you want to add your own touches," Brielle said. I brought photos of Margaret, my books, my old workshop tools. Started to make it feel like mine. But I noticed small things. Dylan and Brielle picked all the furniture without asking my opinion. Chose paint colors without checking if I liked them. Made decisions about the yard, the kitchen, everything, like I wasn't there. When I suggested we plant Margaret's favorite roses in the front garden, Dylan said, "We're going for a modern look, Dad. Low maintenance." When I mentioned hanging some of Margaret's paintings in the living room, Brielle gently said, "We've already decorated. Maybe in your room." One evening, Dylan came into my room as I was unpacking boxes. "Dad, you've got a lot of stuff. Margaret's things. Do you really need all of this? These are my wife's belongings. I know, but they're taking up space. Maybe you could store most of it. Keep the house cleaner." I looked at him. My son, asking me to hide my dead wife's memory. "I'll keep them in my room," I said quietly. He left without arguing, but I heard him tell Brielle downstairs, "We need to set some boundaries." The shift happened gradually. Dylan stopped calling me Dad as often. Started using Alan more. His tone changed from affectionate to matter-of-fact. One morning, I was in the shower when he knocked loudly. "Alan, you've been in there 15 minutes. We've got to think about the water bill." 15 minutes. A normal shower. I started timing everything. Showers under 10 minutes. Lights off when leaving rooms. Careful about wasting food. At the grocery store, Dylan would comment on what I put in the cart. "Do you really need name brand cereal? Generic is fine. I worked 40 years as a machinist. Saved money. Paid for this house. But now I was being lectured about cereal." The worst was when neighbors started treating me differently. One afternoon, Mr. Phillips from next door stopped me while I was checking the mail. "So, Alan, how long are you planning to stay with Dylan and Brielle?" "Stay with them?" "Yeah, you know. Until you get back on your feet or whatever." I stood there confused. "I live here." He looked uncomfortable. "Right? Of course." I just thought, never mind. He walked away quickly. I realized Dylan must have been talking, telling people his version of our arrangement. One where I was temporary. Guest. Burden. Brielle was the only one who treated me like family still. She'd ask about my day, include me in dinner conversations, remember things I mentioned. But I could see confusion growing in her eyes. She'd watch Dylan interact with me, frowning slightly, like she was trying to solve a puzzle. One evening, I was in my room when I heard Dylan on the phone downstairs. His voice carried through the vents. "It's our house now. He needs to remember that. I don't care what the paperwork says, he's living here because we're letting him." Silence as he listened to whoever was on the other end. "No, Brielle doesn't know the full situation. And she doesn't need to. It's handled." My stomach dropped. Brielle didn't know. Dylan had been lying to her. Later that night, I heard them talking in their bedroom. Muffled voices. Brielle's tone questioning. Dylan's defensive. The next morning, Brielle was quieter than usual. She watched me make coffee, studied me like she was seeing something new. "Alan, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "When you moved in, did you need to?" "Financially, I mean, no. I had options." She nodded slowly, absorbing this. "Dylan said you couldn't afford to live alone anymore." "That's not true." She said nothing more, but something shifted in her expression. Doubt had taken root. At the hardware store the following week, I needed to return a drill bit I'd bought. Wrong size. Simple exchange. Dylan came with me, insisted on it. "You might get confused about what you bought," he said. At the counter, the clerk asked for the receipt. I handed it to him. Dylan interrupted. "Actually, I'm not sure that's right. Alan gets confused sometimes about these things." The clerk looked at me with sudden pity. "Oh, I understand. Let me just verify." "It's the right receipt," I said firmly. "I bought it 3 days ago. Wednesday, 2 p.m. You can check your system." The clerk checked. I was right. It was the correct receipt, correct date, correct time. Dylan laughed uncomfortably. "Well, good thing I was wrong then." But the damage was done. The clerk kept glancing at me like I might wander off or forget where I was. In the car, I said nothing. Just stared out the window. That night, I began keeping records. Writing down dates, conversations, incidents. Everything Dylan said or did. Not out of anger. Out of necessity. Because I was starting to realize something. My son was building a narrative. And in that narrative, I was losing my mind. Which meant he was planning something. 2 weeks later, Dylan brought up my will over dinner. Dad, we should talk about your estate planning, just to make sure everything's in order. I set down my fork carefully. My affairs are in order. I know, but have you updated everything? Since Mom died, I just want to make sure you're protected. Protected from what? I don't know. Life. Unexpected things. I'm just trying to help. Brielle looked uncomfortable. Dylan, maybe this isn't the best time. It's fine, he said, not breaking eye contact with me. Dad knows I'm just looking out for him. I've taken care of my own matters for 62 years, I said quietly. I think I can manage. Of course. I'm not saying you can't. I just thought, since I'm your son, maybe I should know what's in place. In case something happens. If something happens, you'll find out then. Dylan's smile dropped. Just for a second. A flash of irritation before he recovered. Sure, Dad. Whatever you think is best. But I knew what he'd been fishing for. Whether I had anything left worth inheriting. Whether selling my house had left me with savings he could access. The answer was yes. I had plenty. In accounts he knew nothing about. And I intended to keep it that way. Brielle started spending more time with me. Helping fold laundry. Sitting on the porch in the evenings. Asking questions about my life before Dylan was born. One afternoon, we were sorting through old photos I'd kept in a box. This is Dylan at his Little League championship, I said, showing her a picture. He hit the winning run. I'd worked double shifts that whole month to afford the equipment. She studied the photo. Young Dylan grinning, holding a trophy, me standing behind him with my hand on his shoulder. You were close, she said. We were everything to each other after Margaret died the first time. She got sick when he was 16, recovered, then it came back years later. I worked extra so he could go to college. Made sure he had everything he needed. He doesn't talk about that much. No, I suppose he doesn't. She was quiet for a moment. Then carefully, Alan, why did you contribute to our down payment? Dylan said it would help you both get started. Said I'd be part of the family home. Did he tell me that's what happened? I don't know what he told you. He said we saved the down payment ourselves. That you moved in later because you needed help. I met her eyes. That's not what happened. She nodded slowly. I didn't think so. That evening, I heard them arguing. Dylan's voice defensive, Brielle's demanding answers. Why didn't you tell me? It's complicated. It's not complicated. Either he paid the down payment or he didn't. He did, but what, Dylan? Why would you lie about that? Their door slammed. Silence filled the house. The dinner incident happened on a Friday. I made spaghetti, my mother's old recipe. Served it on the nice plates from the dining room cabinet. Dylan walked in, saw the table, and his face darkened. Why are you using the good plates? I made dinner. Thought we could eat together as a family. These are for special occasions. I didn't realize. You don't realize a lot of things lately, do you? His voice was sharp, cutting. Dylan, Brielle said quietly. No, seriously. These plates were expensive. We don't use them for regular meals. I apologize, I said, standing to change them. Forget it. It's done now. We ate in tense silence. Brielle kept glancing between Dylan and me, her expression troubled. After dinner, she excused herself. Dylan left to watch TV. I cleaned up alone. Later that night, I heard Brielle on her laptop in their bedroom. Keys clicking. The sound of someone researching something. The next morning, she was quiet at breakfast. Distracted. Looking at Dylan like she was seeing a stranger. Something had shifted. She was putting pieces together. And Dylan had no idea. Brielle spent the next week going through financial records. I knew because I'd see her at her laptop when Dylan was at work, spreadsheets open, documents scattered around her. One afternoon, she came to find me in the garage where I was organizing tools. Alan, I saw the bank transfers. From when you sold your house. I stopped what I was doing. Waited. You gave Dylan $60,000. Yes. He told me we'd save that money ourselves. He told me you moved in later, after you couldn't afford your house anymore. I could afford my house. It was paid off. Worth $300,000. She closed her eyes. He lied to me. Yes. About all of it. Yes. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, I confronted him last night. He said you're confused, that you don't remember things correctly, that the money was a loan he's been paying back. That's not true. I know. I checked. There are no payments. No loan documents. Nothing. She leaned against the workbench. I don't know who I married. You married someone who was good at hiding parts of himself. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. He's telling people you're losing your independence, that you need help with basic things. I heard him on the phone talking about nursing home options. My hand stilled on the tool I was holding. Nursing homes. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. If I'd known sooner. It's not your fault. But inside, something hardened. Dylan wasn't just dismissing me. He was planning to get rid of me entirely. That changed everything. I started preparing quietly, methodically. First, I gathered every document related to the house. The deed with my name on it. The bank transfer records. Emails from Dylan promising this would be a shared home. Everything. Made copies. Stored them in 3 separate locations. Then I called an old friend, Vincent, who'd retired from real estate law. Asked if we could meet for coffee. Alan, good to hear from you. Everything okay? I need legal advice. Off the books for now. We met at a diner across town. I explained the situation. Showed him the documents. Vincent read through everything carefully, his expression growing concerned. Alan, you're a legal co-owner of this property. Dylan can't force you out. Can't make decisions without your consent. What if he tries? Then you have legal recourse. Partition sale. Forced buyout. Several options. I don't want to hurt him. He's hurting you. I nodded slowly. What should I do? Document everything. Keep records. And if things escalate, you have more power than he thinks. I left that meeting feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Control. The next morning, I left the house at dawn before anyone was awake. Drove to the bank, opened a safety deposit box, stored copies of all documents. When I returned home, Dylan was in the kitchen making coffee. Where were you? Out for a drive. Needed fresh air. He studied me suspiciously, but said nothing. I poured myself coffee and sat at the table. Calm. Prepared. The game had changed. He just didn't know it yet. Dylan's public narrative intensified. He started telling anyone who'd listen that I was declining. At the neighborhood watch meeting, I heard him say, "Yeah, Dad's having trouble remembering things. We're trying to help him maintain independence as long as possible." At the grocery store, he'd steer me away from the register. "Let me handle this, Dad. You look tired." People began treating me differently. Speaking slower. Offering unnecessary help. Looking at me with pity. One neighbor, Mrs. Young, asked Brielle directly, "Is Alan okay?" Dylan mentioned he might need more intensive care soon. Brielle's face went tight. Alan is fine. Completely capable. But the rumors had spread. Everyone thought I was losing my mind. The breaking point came when I overheard Dylan on the phone in his study. The door wasn't fully closed. "Yeah, I'm looking into it. There's a nice facility about 20 minutes from here. They have memory care units." Pause. "I know it's expensive, but we'll figure it out. Once we sell his share of the house." My blood went cold. The lawyer said if he's declared incompetent, I can take over his finances. Then we can restructure everything. Another pause. "Brielle doesn't need to know all the details. I'll handle it." I walked away silently. Went to my room. Sat on the bed staring at nothing. My son was planning to have me declared incompetent. Take my finances. Sell my share of the house. Put me in a facility. Also, he could have everything. That evening, Brielle found me sitting on the back porch. Came out with 2 cups of tea. "Can I sit? Please." We sat in silence for a while. Then she spoke quietly. I heard him on the phone, too. "About the facility." I nodded. "Alan, I didn't know about any of this. The money, the lies, the plans. I swear I didn't know. I believe you. He's not the person I thought I married. People show themselves in time." She set down her tea, turned to face me. "What are you planning to do?" "I don't know yet. Do you have options?" "Legally, I mean." "Yes. More than he thinks." "Good." She paused. "I can't be part of this." Whatever he's planning. I won't help him do this to you. I know. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. You see it now. That's what matters. We sat together as the sun set. Two people who'd been lied to by the same man. Finding quiet alliance and truth. I began removing my things from the house. Slowly. Carefully. So Dylan wouldn't notice immediately. First, books. A few at a time. Stored them in Vincent's garage. Then, clothes. Packed a suitcase every few days. Said I was donating old things. Margaret's paintings. Her jewelry. The box of photos. Everything that mattered. The hardest was her wedding ring, which I'd kept in a small box in my dresser. I held it in my palm one night, remembering her smile, her laugh, the way she'd loved Dylan so completely. She'd be heartbroken to see what he'd become. I tucked the ring safely into my jacket pocket. It would stay with me from now on. Dylan noticed the room was emptier. Cleaning out clutter. Just organizing. Good. Less stuff is better. He had no idea I was preparing to leave. One morning, I carefully removed the property deed from the file cabinet. Slipped it into my coat. When Brielle saw me, she nodded slightly. She knew. She understood. And she wasn't going to stop me. Vincent agreed to represent me officially. We met at his office to discuss strategy. Alan, you have several options. As co-owner, you can force a partition sale. That means the house gets sold and proceeds are divided according to ownership percentage. What would that mean for Dylan? He'd have to buy you out at fair market value, or the house sells. Either way, you get your money back. And if he can't buy me out, then the house sells to a third party. He'd have to find somewhere else to live. I thought about this carefully. I don't want to destroy him. He's still my son. He's planning to have you declared incompetent and steal your assets. I know. Vincent leaned forward. Alan, you have more power here than he realizes. Use it. Not for revenge. For protection. I signed the representation papers. Vincent would file the initial documentation, send Dylan an official notice of my intentions. This will shock him, Vincent warned. He thinks you're helpless. I know. Are you ready for his reaction? I thought about the backyard party. The nursing home calls. The years I'd spent raising him alone. Yes, I said. I'm ready. The certified letter arrived on a Tuesday morning. Dylan was home, having taken the day off work. I watched from the kitchen as he signed for it. Saw his face as he opened it and read. Notice of co-owner legal partition review. Demand for full accounting of property ownership rights. Intent to pursue legal remedies. His face went from confused to pale to red. He looked up at me. I was calmly drinking coffee at the kitchen table. What is this? Legal documentation. You're suing me? I'm asserting my rights as co-owner of this property. You can't do that. I can. And I am. He stared at the letter, hand shaking. Dad, we can work this out. You don't need lawyers. You were planning to have me declared incompetent. To take my assets. To put me in a nursing home. That's not. I wasn't. I heard you on the phone, Dylan. I know exactly what you were planning. Brielle walked in, saw the letter, saw Dylan's face. What's going on? Dylan turned to her, desperate. He's trying to take the house. He owns half the house, Brielle said quietly. You told me he didn't. It's more complicated than that. It's not complicated, I said. I paid the down payment. My name is on the deed. You lied to your wife and tried to steal from me. I raised you. Took care of you. And this is how you repay me. The irony was breathtaking. I raised you. I took care of you. I gave you everything. And you call me a burden. He had no response. Just stood there holding the letter, his whole world reshaping. Dylan exploded that evening. Slammed doors, shouted, accused me of betrayal. I gave you a home. I let you live here. I bought this home. With my money. From a house I'd spent 30 years paying for. You're my father. You're supposed to help me. And you're my son. You were supposed to love me. He lunged toward me. Brielle stepped between us instantly. Dylan, stop. He's destroying our family. You destroyed it, she said firmly. When you lied. When you used him. When you planned to steal from him. I wasn't stealing. Yes, you were. And you lied to me about all of it. Dylan looked between us, realizing he'd lost. Not just the legal battle, but his wife's support. Brielle, you're my wife. You're supposed to be on my side. I'm on the side of what's right. And this isn't right. He stared at her for a long moment, then grabbed his keys and left. The door slammed so hard the windows rattled. Brielle and I stood in the sudden silence. I'm sorry, she said quietly. You have nothing to apologize for. I should have seen this sooner. You saw it when it mattered. She nodded, then went to the guest room. I heard her on the phone, voice low, talking to someone, probably her sister. I went to my room and sat on the bed. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from relief. The truth was out. Everything was in motion now. There was no going back. Word spread through the neighborhood faster than I expected. Brielle had confided in her sister, who mentioned it to a friend, who told her husband, who knew half the street. Within 3 days, everyone knew. Dylan had lied about owning the house, had used his father's money, had been planning to institutionalize me. People started treating me differently again, but this time with respect, understanding. Mrs. Young stopped me at the mailbox. Alan, I'm sorry I believed what Dylan said. I should have known better. It's not your fault. If you need anything, a place to stay, help moving, anything, just ask. Mr. Phillips came over with a casserole. For whatever you need. I feel terrible about that conversation we had. Even the neighborhood kids stopped calling me Mr. Pierce and started asking how I was doing. Dylan, meanwhile, became isolated. People stopped inviting him to gatherings. Conversations would pause when he walked by. The social currency he'd spent years building evaporated overnight. One evening, I saw him sitting alone in his car in the driveway. Just sitting there, staring at nothing. Part of me felt sorry for him. The part that remembered teaching him to ride a bike, reading him bedtime stories, cheering at his baseball games. But that didn't change what he'd done, or what I had to do now. The tension in the house became unbearable. Brielle stopped sleeping in their bedroom. Started using my old room, the one I'd mostly cleared out. She and Dylan barely spoke. When they did, it was clipped. Hold. One morning, I heard them arguing in the kitchen. You lied about everything. I did what I had to do. You used your father. You lied to me. You were planning to steal from him. I wasn't stealing. It's complicated. It's not complicated, Dylan. It's cruel. You wouldn't understand. I understand perfectly. You're selfish. And I can't be married to someone like that. Silence. Then Dylan's voice, smaller. What are you saying? I'm saying I need space. I want to stay with my sister for a while. Brielle, please. I can't do this anymore. She left that afternoon. Packed a suitcase. Hugged me goodbye. Whispered, you deserve better. After she was gone, the house felt cavernous. Dylan stayed in his room. I stayed in mine. We were two strangers living in a war zone, waiting for the final battle. That night, my phone rang. Dylan. I stared at the screen. Let it ring 4 times. Then declined the call. He needed to sit with what he'd done. Needed to feel the weight of consequences. I wasn't ready to forgive him. Wasn't sure I ever would be. The mediation session was scheduled for a Wednesday morning. Vincent advised me on what to expect. Stay calm. Present facts. Let the documentation speak. We arrived at the mediator's office separately. Dylan came with a court-appointed advisor since he couldn't afford an attorney. His face was drawn. He lost weight. Looked older somehow. The mediator, a woman named Ms. Thornton, reviewed all the documents. Property deed, bank transfers, text messages Dylan had sent, emails, everything. She looked up after 20 minutes. Mr. Pierce, the younger Mr. Pierce, did you represent to your spouse that you solely own this property? It was more complicated than that. It's a yes or no question. Dylan shifted uncomfortably. Yes, but I was going to tell her eventually. And you accepted $60,000 from your father for the down payment? Yes. Did you inform your spouse of this? No. Did you create a loan document? Any agreement for repayment? We didn't think it was necessary. It was family money. Family money that you told friends and neighbors was yours alone. that you used while simultaneously portraying your father as dependent and declining. Dylan had no response. Miss Thornton turned to me. Mr. Pierce, you're seeking partition of the property? Yes. And you have documentation showing clear co-ownership? Yes, ma'am. She reviewed the deed again. The law is clear. You have the right to force a sale or require Mr. Dylan Pierce to buy out your share at fair market value. Dylan's face crumbled. I can't afford that. Then the property will need to be sold. That's not fair. What's not fair, Miss Thornton said firmly, is misrepresenting ownership, using your father's money, and attempting to have him declared incompetent. All of which is documented here. The mediation ended with clear terms. Dylan had 60 days to buy me out at fair market value, approximately $150,000, or the house would be listed for sale. He couldn't meet my eyes as we left. Brielle stayed with her sister. Call me occasionally to check in. How are you holding up? I'm okay. I filed for divorce yesterday. I'm sorry. I'm not. I'm sorry I didn't see who he really was sooner. He was good at hiding it. That doesn't excuse it. She paused. Alan, I want you to know whatever happens with the house, you did the right thing. Thank you. I mean it. Don't let guilt make you back down. After we hung up, I thought about that. Guilt. I did feel guilty. He was my son. I'd raised him. Loved him. But love didn't mean accepting abuse. It didn't mean letting him steal from me. It didn't mean sacrificing my dignity to make him comfortable. Dylan called that night. I answered this time. Dad. His voice was broken. Small. Yes. I'm sorry. For everything. I know that doesn't fix it, but I'm sorry. I know you are. Is there any way we can work this out? Without selling the house. Can you afford to buy me out? No. Then there's no other option. I'll lose everything. You already lost everything. The house is just next. Silence on the line. Then, I understand. He hung up. I sat in the darkness of my room, feeling the weight of it all. This wasn't victory. It was just necessary. Sometimes love means letting consequences teach the lessons you couldn't. The house went on the market in March. Dylan couldn't buy me out. Didn't have the savings. Couldn't get a loan without Brielle's income. The listing agent said it would sell fast. Good neighborhood. Well maintained. Priced fairly. Dylan moved through the process like a ghost. Barely spoke. Kept his things packed in his room like he was already gone. The house sold in 2 weeks. Young couple with a baby. They loved the backyard. Thought it would be perfect for their growing family. Closing was set for 30 days out. Dylan found a rental apartment across town. 1 bedroom. Small. Nothing like what he'd planned for his life. On his last day in the house, he loaded his car in silence. I watched from the window. When he finished, he stood in the driveway, looking at the house. Then walked over to where I was sitting on the porch. Dad. Yes. I don't expect you to forgive me. I know what I did. I want you to know I see it now. How wrong I was. I believe you. Maybe someday. Maybe we can try again. Start over. Maybe. But not today. He nodded. Got in his car. Drove away. I sat on that porch until sunset, thinking about everything. The beginning. The end. The cost of truth. The house was no longer mine. But my dignity was. My self-respect was. And that was worth more than any building could ever be. The cabin sat near a quiet lake where the water moved slowly, like it was breathing. The air smelled like pine and damp earth. When Alan stepped out of the small moving truck and looked around, he didn't feel heavy anymore. He felt light, the way someone feels after setting down something they have carried for too long. The cabin wasn't large. It didn't shine or impress anyone. But it was his. Fully his. And for the first time in a long while, the space around him felt like it knew him. He walked to the back where a small patch of soil sat near the porch. He knelt down carefully, letting his knees touch the warm wood. He opened the paper bag he brought with him. Inside were packets of seeds. Lavender, daisies, and small pink roses. His late wife, Elise, used to plant them every spring. He remembered how she would hum while she worked. The tune never finished, just drifting in and out like wind. Alan pushed his fingers into the soil. The ground was soft, ready. He pressed in the seeds with slow hands, not to rush, not to get it perfect, but to honor the memory behind each one. When he stood again, his eyes stung a little. Not painful, not sad, just full. He spent the next week settling in. He hung pictures of Elise and of himself when he was younger. He placed her old quilt at the foot of his bed. The cabin held him, quiet and warm. Every morning, he sat on the small porch and watched the sunrise over the lake. Some days he read. Some days he simply breathed. Then, one afternoon, he visited the local community center. There was a woodworking group that met twice a week. He used to carve toys for Dylan when he was small. Little horses, cars, and once a boat with sails made of napkins. When he walked into the workshop, the scent of sawdust and fresh lumber greeted him like an old friend. A man around his age waved him over. "You knew?" the man asked. "Yeah," Alan answered, smiling softly. "I used to do a bit of carving." "Then you're in the right place," the man said. "We'd be glad to have you." Alan felt something open inside him, something that had been shut for years. Every meeting, he carved small things first. A small bird, a wooden bowl, a smooth walking stick. The others didn't ask for his story. They just welcomed him. They joked. They shared coffee. They worked in easy silence. It felt like belonging. A healthy belonging. At night, Alan sat on the porch again. The air was cool. Crickets sang. The young flowers in the soil had not grown yet, but he trusted they would. Life was like that. Things bloom in their own time. He was no longer trying to earn love, forgiveness, or respect. He was simply living, and that was enough. And peace, real peace, began to settle around him like gentle water. It had been several months when Alan heard the soft knock at his cabin door. He opened it, and there stood Brielle. Her hair was tied back, and her eyes looked tired, but not broken. Just real. She held her hands together in front of her, unsure. "Hi, Alan," she said quietly. He stepped aside. "Come in, Brielle." She walked into the cabin and looked around at the simple, warm space. The pictures. The flowers drying in a glass jar. The carved wooden bird on the table. She sat at the small kitchen table, and Alan joined her. For a long moment, they didn't speak. The silence wasn't heavy. It was gentle, the kind that gives room for truth. "I wanted to thank you," she said. Her voice shook a little. "For not fighting dirty. For not trying to ruin us. You could have. You had every right to." Alan nodded. "I didn't need revenge. I just needed my life back." She looked down, swallowing hard. "I'm divorced now. I couldn't stay." He never saw what he did wrong. He kept saying everyone betrayed him. Her eyes lifted. "He talks about you sometimes. I think he misses you, but he doesn't know how to admit it." Alan breathed in slowly, then out. "I hope he figures himself out someday." "Truly." Brielle wiped her eyes. "He lives in a small apartment now. He's not doing great." Alan didn't feel satisfaction. He didn't feel victory. What he felt was clarity. Loving someone doesn't mean letting them hurt you. Family does not excuse cruelty. Silence does not mean weakness. He walked Brielle to the door. The lake breeze moved through the trees, making the leaves whisper. Before she left, Brielle looked at him one last time. "You deserved so much better." Alan nodded gently. "I know that now." As she drove away and the cabin grew still again, Alan sat on the porch, watching the sunlight ripple across the water. The flowers were beginning to sprout in the soil, small green stems reaching upward. He whispered, not in bitterness, not in triumph, but in truth. "Being needed isn't the same as being valued. I know the difference now." And the lake carried his words softly into the open air. He was free.